What's going on, guys? Satsuki the Savage here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my most underrated Hunter x Hunter Hatsu abilities, or to make it more simple, my most underrated Nin abilities. So since these abilities are ones that I believe are underrated, you won't see abilities like Killua's Godspeed or Kite's Crazy Slots because those are pretty popular within the Hunter x Hunter fandom. So again, abilities like that won't be on this list. Also, keep in mind when I list off these abilities, they aren't in any ranking order whatsoever, and there will be manga spoilers for 2 abilities, but I'll tell you when I get to those parts. With that being said, let's go. The first Hatsu I have up is Kalto's Surveillance Paper Dolls. Now with this Nin ability, of course it's not combat related, but it's really good for recon missions because it's just a piece of confetti that needs to be attached to someone, and with this ability you can hear anything around the target, alright? And this ability was so stealthy that Kalto was able to use it on the Phantom Troop members without them noticing a thing. So say you need to observe or scope out your target. This ability will be perfect for that because it's so under the radar. It's just a piece of confetti and you would not notice anything whatsoever. And since Kalto is already a trained assassin, he is the perfect person to use this ability. The second Hatsu up is Morel's Deep Purple. Deep Purple. And actually, Deep Purple was on my top 10 Nin ability list, and I plan to revise that video soon because I didn't really like the style I was using before, but that's beside the point. With this ability, Morel is able to manipulate his aura into smoke, and this is very versatile. If you think Hisoka's bungee gum is versatile, this would probably give it a run for its money because Morel is able to use the smoke as actual tangible weapons. He can actually impersonate other people to the point where his smoke can actually mimic their speech, their likeliness, you know, exactly how they look, to the point where you can't even distinguish them between a real person. So with Deep Purple, Morel is able to do many things, and he's very creative with his uses. I mean, just the fact that Morel was able to fight all the royal guards with almost this ability alone shows you that this ability is kind of underrated. Third on the list, we have Palm, Mermaid's Clairvoyance. Now this is another ability that's not really tailored for combat, but I think will be really good in recon situations. Palm is able to observe anybody she's seen with her own eyes, and all she has to do to complete this whole ability is give up some blood to this statue Nin thingy, and she can observe this person as long as she wants. And after Palm reanimated as a Chimera Ant, she actually gained a new ability called Wink Blue, which replaced Mermaid's Clairvoyance, which I thought was inferior to Mermaid's Clairvoyance because with Wink Blue, she was able to see up to 3 people with one of her eyes. I forgot if it was her right eye or left eye. I apologize. But she could only see up to 3 people, and if she's seeing anybody else with that eye, it will be replaced. So I think Mermaid's Clairvoyance is better because as long as she's seen the target, she can observe anybody she wants, and all she has to sacrifice is a bit of her blood. So yeah, I think Mermaid's Clairvoyance is pretty underrated. Number 4 on the list, we have Basho, Great Haiku.
俺様が殴った者は皆燃える。これが俺の力、冷凍ハイカー。
Now, this ability I feel is super underrated because its potential is almost limitless. With this ability, Basho, all he has to do is write a haiku, and if it's good enough, whatever is written on that haiku will come true. He was able to burn a chair just by writing some bullshit on a haiku and punching it. So that leads me to think that he could do some crazy shit if he writes some good haikus. Just imagine him writing a haiku like this. With a single punch, I call on the gods of death. Kill my enemies. And after he writes that poem down, he basically becomes Saitama and is able to one-punch all his enemies. Number 5 on the list, we have Shizuku with her blinky. I know y'all are probably thinking, like, out of all the Phantom Troop members, you pick Shizuku when there's like Phaeton and Crollo, but in my opinion, those guys aren't really underrated with their abilities. But with Blinky, I think it actually has some good combat use. With Shizuku's Blinky, she's able to suck up anything. Yeah, suck up anything that isn't a living organism or an object created out of Nin, and of course her own friends. And if she wanted to, she could drain all the water out of your body. And we actually seen her use this on that weird spider chimera ant, alright? When she drained all the blood out of his body. So why can't she do that with any other Nin user? If she were to do that, the fight will be over in seconds. And she doesn't even have to use Blinky as a combat ability. She can just use it as storage. Alright guys, now we're getting to the manga spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled on certain events that happen in the manga, certain abilities, then I advise that you click off the video right now. Number 6 on the list, we have Sayu's ability, and I'm not really sure if we got the name of it. Anyway, Sayu uses 3 monkeys, one called Mizaru, which takes away your sight, one named Kikizaru, which takes away your hearing, and a last called Iwazaru, which takes away your speech. Now, we actually seen an ability kind of like this when we seen the fight between Shu and Killua. Shu was able to take Killua's sight away from him, and we've seen the effect of this because it kind of put Killua in this disarray. Imagine you losing one of your senses just suddenly. In particular, your sight and hearing, that would definitely kind of mess with your mind, and after that, you would be at a huge disadvantage in a fight. So even though this ability won't outright kill you, I think it causes enough disruption to the point where you will be rendered useless in combat if it was used against you. Now, the final person we have on this list is Benjamin with his Hatsu ability called Benjamin Baton. Now, in a Hunter x Hunter world, we have 4 different Hatsus that can steal other abilities, alright? I think the worst one we can all agree on is Leo's ability because it only lets him borrow the ability and he has to know the person and do them a favor. Next up, we have Kurapika's ability. He uses a steel chain. This is actually pretty useful because he can use it for himself only once though, or he can transfer it. And the most popular one we have is Crollo's whole Skill Hunter, but there are a lot of conditions for Crollo's Skill Hunter. The first condition is he has to see the ability with his own eyes. Second, he has to ask the target about the ability and get the answer from them. Third, he has to make the target's palm touch the handprint on the cover of his Skill Hunter. And fourth, he has to fulfill all 3 of these conditions within 1 hour. And to top it off, Crollo has to open the book, keep the book in his right hand, and turn the page of the ability that he's going to be using. And if the person dies, he can't use the ability any longer. Now, I bring those 3 abilities up because Benjamin Baton is another Hatsu that can steal others' abilities. And in my opinion, the condition for Benjamin Baton is less strict than Crollo's ability. For Benjamin to inherit someone's ability, they have to swear fealty to him. They had to graduate from the Kakin Royal Military. They had to be a part of Benjamin's private army. Oh, and they gotta die. Now, as far as we know, Benjamin can steal as many Hatsus as he wants. Togashi hasn't put a limit on the number of Hatsus Benjamin can inherit. So as far as we know, he can have as many abilities as Chrollo as long as he fits those conditions. And the advantage it has over Chrollo's ability is he doesn't have to turn to another page. He can just outright use the ability. And given Benjamin's status as a royal prince, he could get a lot of people to swear fealty to him. He could get a lot of people to graduate the Kaken Royal Academy. And he could get people in his private army. And if he wanted to, he could kill them just as well. So he could literally steal a whole bunch of abilities if that's what he wanted. But guys, that wraps up my most underrated Hatsu abilities. Feel free to comment some Hatsu abilities that you think are underrated in your opinion. But guys, that is it for me. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. Satsuki the Savage.